Focus. 3, 2.
Okay, so many people want me to talk about Tupac. So this is my topic on Tupac and basically the All Eyes on Me movie, but really talking about Tupac and his upbringing and what led Tupac to become such an influential figure, not only in America, but throughout the world. Tupac, you have to start with his mother. His mother was a Black Panther leader. His mother was super active in the movement. She was able to, by herself, without a lawyer, get her and 20 of her Panther brothers and sisters off of charges that the U.S. government falsely accused them of bombing a federal building. And when she did that, they wrote a book about it called Panther 21. And she actually spent some time in prison while Tupac was still in her womb. So that revolutionary mindset was in Pac from his inception. So Tupac grew up in impoverished neighborhoods in New York, Baltimore, and in Cali. And over this time in Baltimore, while he was in Baltimore, he became a really, really active when it came to acting and music and when it came to the arts and entertainment. So that's where you see his influence. And when he was at the Baltimore school, he was really good friends with Jada Pinkett. And that's where their relationship came and built and it became stronger. So now you fast forward, while Tupac's growing up, he's seeing this poverty, and at the same time, he's learning from his mother the struggle. He's highly educated. He knows the history of everything. And so while he's coming up, he starts to build a rapport as he's saying, the one thing we have is this poverty as Black people. One thing we have is we see the systematic racism, basically, whereas everything in control and major, where there's banking, schooling, military, policing is all in the hands of the Caucasian and the European. And when he's seeing that, he's like, what's going on with that? And he still has that mindset from his mother. So fast forward to when he becomes a rapper. He becomes a rap star, and at the same time, he's battling within himself. Because you see two types of Tupac. You see the party going Tupac, and at the same time, you know, some of the hood style stuff. But then you see that same revolutionary style and that same caring in songs like what can I say? In songs like Dear Mama, you see the caring side. In songs like Keep Your Head Up, and in many different other songs, he talks about police brutality, like They Got Me Trapped. He talks about the imprisonment, and then while he's going through all these different changes, he meets a girl in the club. Basically, he's a superstar. So she ends up giving the man some game. Basically she gives him oral sex. So she gives him oral sex on the dance floor. She calls him this and that. He goes to the hotel room with some of his people that he associated with. He leaves out the hotel room, comes back, and when he comes back, the girl's screaming and talking about, oh, y'all, this ain't the last y'all hear me, this and that. So basically, she testifies in court saying that he raped her, but there was no semen found, no forcible entry. She even later said that none of that sort happened, that she was forced to say that. And he wasn't even convicted of rape. He was convicted of sexual abuse, forcibly touching of the buttocks. And he got a number of years for that. He got off on bail because of Suge Knight, giving $1.4 million to him. But at the same time, he was still going through another transformation because he wanted to use his political mind to be able to unify the Bloods and the Crips, so he can use that as an organizational tool, so he can start cleaning up the Black community. And he had all these views. He actually had a lot of stuff written down. He studied a lot. Listened to he read a lot about Machiavelli and stuff like that. So when you look at Tupac's upbringing, it's very interesting because the media portrays him as just some gangster figure, and that was not his image at all. So that's pretty much it. All right, next I'm going to be talking about political views. So I'm going to base this, first I'm going to talk about domestic views as it relates to us as a nation on the federal level. So when you see the Republican Party and you also see a guy like Donald Trump, this represents a really white nationalist, Wall Street banksterist wing of our society, which really controls both parties. The Wall Street bankster ring controls both the Democrats and Republican Party. That's who elected Obama, if you guys didn't know that. Bankster money elected Obama. And that's why he didn't do anything about the bailout and about the financial crisis, about, reinvigorating the main society. But back to Trump. When it comes to Trump, you can see that he not only had Wall Street support, but at the same time, he had a base of basically really frustrated whites with the fact that things weren't moving in their favor per se, and the standard of living has been going down since about 1970 by like 2/3. So that was the main two. But now let me get down to my political views. I'm what you call a New Deal Democrat, but even more radical than what FDR was doing. I'm what you call, when it comes to economics, if there was a situation where, like the financial crisis of 2008, my plan wouldn't have been what Obama did, whereas continue to bailouts, do quantitative easing, which means use the Federal Reserve to basically continue pushing money within the insolvent banks that allowed the crisis to take place in the first place. My view would have been to use the Federal Reserve to give credit to the main economy so that you can build up infrastructure, manufacturing jobs, build in high-wage jobs, build in educational systems that can teach people what the society needs to continue moving towards that next level, basically. So that would have been my views. And if you would have cleaned up infrastructure, you wouldn't have had the situation which went on in Flint. So, but Obama didn't do that. And we know why Obama didn't do that, because his money is tied to Wall Street, the banksters. And when your money is tied to these people, you have to do what they say. So if you look at what he did, and then you also fast forward and look at what Trump's doing, it's basically a correlation. The only difference is the personality, basically. They're both tied to the same sort of element, per se. And on a foreign policy note, too, when it comes to Obama, a lot of people don't know this, he launched a lot of imperial wars. The Yemen wars, where he's launched thousands of drone strikes and killed thousands of innocent civilians in Pakistan and in Afghanistan, expanding these wars. He supposedly ended the war in Iraq as well, but it took a little while, and a vacuum came up of ISIS, but we know where that comes from, as a CIA proxy. And then at the same time, the continued wars in Syria using a CIA proxy known as ISIS. And then at the same time with I know it started from the UK under Cameron, and then France under Sarkozy. They pushed Mrs. Clinton and then Obama to launch NATO strikes into Libya, and using their proxies on the ground, which is what at the time called Al-Qaeda, which is also CIA proxy at the same time. UK and DGSC, which is the French equivalent to the Secret Intelligence Agency, they use these things to destabilize Libya. Now Libya is in hell, and we'll figure out where did the slave trade come from? It came from them, basically. They dethroned Gaddafi because Gaddafi was going to launch a African currency which would have bankrupt all other major currencies in the world, because no other currency is backed by anything. If you back an African currency by its resources, which all these other nations rely on covertly, because Africa's in the Helleton, and most of these nations are in puppet, I guess what I want to say, viceroy or satrap territory. Let me explain what that means. All these heads of state basically have to do what foreign powers tell them to do. If they don't do what they want them to do, they'll overthrow these governments. That's what happened in Libya. The opposite side happened in Zimbabwe. This was the opposite thing. It wasn't the Anglo-Americans doing this. This was China doing this. So in Zimbabwe, they ousted, Mugabe. They ousted Mugabe, and then implanted their own little puppet in there. Same. You can go back in history and look at what happened in the Congo too, with Patrice Lumumba, where the CIA murdered him because he wanted to nationalize the resources there and start creating basically a nationalist system where you provide for the people. This is my major political view on a global scale. Domestically, you kind of need a New Deal approach where you use the Federal Reserve to stimulate the economy, and you build up those at the very bottom so that you can raise the entire standard of living for everybody else. You don't start from the top down, you start from the bottom up, because it's basically like a football team. If your team is lacking at the lowest positions, then all you will have is a star dominant team. You need the entire team to be well off, so you can basically, so if next man up, the guy is just ready to go. You don't have anybody, you don't have no drop off. That's kind of why the Eagles won. And for another example, that's also why back in the day used to win all the national championship, because next man up, boom, this guy's a pro just like the guy behind him. So it's the same thing, man. You have to build from the bottom up. So let me get back to the Pan-African view for a second. My overall true goal would be take over the entire continent of Africa, create a united African family, or federation as I would call it. Use the already existing organization known as the African Union and make it more aggressive. Have each nation provide troops for this organization, and then tie all these nations' currency, military, and economics together in one continental bank, one continental army, and one continental protection and providing force. So you can build huge infrastructure projects, provide jobs, create huge hospital services, huge protection military bases, so no other nations can imperialize this continent anymore. You do that automatically, watch, you'll see Africa go to the top like it's nothing. And people will be surprised, like, hey, what's going on? How did they do that? You did it because you really created the true essence of an African nation state when it's unencumbered by things like imperialism and fake diseases created by foreign powers. It's just a 1-2 game. If you don't know the information, then when you see the media, you're always going to get basically blindsided by the information that they tell you. But when you know the game, you kind of look at this, you're like, oh, okay, all right, it's another operation. Okay, they're at it again. All right, okay, all right. But this is my overall political view. I want to be in a position where I gain power to make sure that this does not happen anymore. Like Black Panther was an example of a wave that's coming. I'm gonna be at the head of this wave. There needs to be a change. Like now, I'm tired of seeing them play these games where they basically are using technology to start droughts, and use technology to make sure that certain areas can't be farmed, and giving vaccinations to young kids, and basically destabilizing countries. So now there's slavery in those countries, and they're acting like they're surprised what goes on, or using the pretext of kidnapping girls a la Boko Haram, which is just a CIA proxy, and using that to use a pretext to invade this country, say we're helping to save girls, when it's really you want to take over the resources of Nigeria because they're getting too up as far as the economy. So it's just a big game that they're playing, and I know what's going on. I've been studying this bad boy for a while, and there needs to be a change. And my political view is, as a Pan-African nationalist, to be a leader that takes power. I'm not into this "we shall overcome," wear a banner and say and just sit kumbaya. Nah, man, we need action now, and I represent action now, and that's it, man. That's it.